All right, aloha, friends. Welcome to another episode. I'm Brian Goss. It's game time with the Goss. We'll be talking about a little bit about volleyball with my good friend Chuck Licata, the Texas State volleyball insider, Big Daddy Media. Good to see you, my friend. This past weekend, a big tournament, one of the best in the country every year, the
Yeah.
Volleypalooza over there down in the Leander area. You got to
Yep.
go on championship Saturday. Uh,
Yep.
Mater Day out of California came to Texas and took down the Texas Giants, won that tournament for the second year, a second time in 3 years,
hmm
Plano Prestonwood. Just yeah, 68 teams overall in the field, 18 from here in the Metroplex. Just give us some insight on Saturday and how good is Mater Day really seeing them in person.
Yeah. Well, first of all, before we get to that, let me say it was fun to watch your game day with the Goss yesterday because you weren't the driver in that one. Your
Yeah,
co-host was
yeah.
actually the one asking questions.
It was a
That was
little different.
interesting,
It was a little different. Had to get used
right? We've been doing this for so long. Isn't it interesting when somebody, kind of where I am right now, it's interesting to be questioned as opposed to asking questions. So
to it. Yeah.
that was fun to watch you do that. That was pretty good.
Appreciate it.
By the way, she's much prettier than you are. So if I can get her next time, I'd appreciate that.
I know. She should be the face of this GM Sports Network.
Oh man, yeah. You talked about modern day. I mean, Volleypalooza is phenomenal. You've got three of the nation's top 10 teams in the same gym at the same time on Saturday. I mean, Championship Saturday really. You talk about the highest profile high school volleyball tournament, of the week, if not, of the year, and one of the best of the year, no question. Modern day, Dan O'Dowd is the head coach there. I've known him for a couple of years, and they get travel money every other year, so they'll be there every other year. So when you say they won for the second time in 3 years, it's only because they weren't there last year. Of course, Texas teams are, a little ruffled by that. They don't want to hear that California team coming in and winning. But yeah, they're really good. In fact, I talked to Ryan Mitchell, head coach of Prestonwood, the legendary Ryan Mitchell, by the way. 8 state championships, getting towards 10. Jan Barker of Amarillo has 10 as the all-time record so far. But anyways, as they were watching the game preceding the championship game, I asked him, I said, so what bothers you, what worries you most and concerns you most about modern day? He said, he says, Dan has them really cool. When they're out in the court, if they're having issues, with momentum or serving or something, they don't react. They're just real cool, calm, and collected. And I think what kind of set the tone for that championship match was the semifinal that Ryan and the Lions played against Grand Oaks, who's number one in 6A, and rightfully so. Morgan Rogers, in the 5th year of that program's existence, has them at number one in 6A. But that was a toe-to-toe. Prestonwood won the first one 14, and you're like, oh my God, they're going to walk through this, because you're playing best of 3. Rogers made a huge adjustment in the front line, and that set up a big block. And so Grand Oaks won the second match. So they forced the second set, forcing a third and deciding set. And they literally went back and forth. It was 1918. Grand Oaks had just pulled off a 5-0 run to close within 1. Ryan calls timeout. They come out of the timeout. Macarius Spears, the 2023 Gatorade Player of the Year in Texas, 4 kills, a block assist. They go off and they win it. They finish the match on a 6-3 run, and they wouldn't end up winning it. But my point is this: they spent a lot of energy getting that win. And of course, I talked to Ryan after the loss, and he's like, no, don't say, the girls were tired, whatever, But I think that win, and as much energy as they exerted in that win just to get to the championship match, that played a factor, because they lost 21-18 to Mater Day, and they had a lot of unforced errors. That was the telltale sign of that match. in that loss was they had way too many unforced errors, and that's kind of what did them in.
Yeah, you mentioned that for Mater Dei coming into the tournament, they only played two previous matches. And now they're traveling from California to Texas. You could probably make a case that they were a lot fresher. I don't know, just how do you see it that way? They were a lot fresher, and like Prestonwood, they had already played uh, whatever it was, 10 games.
7 or 8 matches at that point. Yeah,
Spring Oaks had played like 17 matches up to this point. Just, I mean,
right.
did that help? That Mater Dei just maybe seemed to be more fresher?
I asked O'Dowd that, and he said no. He says, the thing is, he said you could also make the counter argument that because we've only played 2 matches, that we don't have the court consistency that we should. A team that's played 10, 12, like you said, Grand Oaks, 17, 18 matches at that point, they've got that court consistency. So, it goes both ways. But he said no. He said, O'Dowd said what the biggest factor for him and his team was the fact that they had a lot of returners from last year. So they're familiar with each other. So they really, they took the court, and whereas they had 2 matches on the docket, he felt like they were 10, 12 matches in before they even started the tournament at Rouse. So he was very confident about his team and how they're going to react to stuff. And plus, I mean, they're Mater Dei. They have got, it's just one of those legendary programs like Ryan is building now at Prestonwood after what he built at Lovejoy, which Natalie Puckett has, continued on at Lovejoy. They're going to be good. There's just a couple programs that are always going to be high quality, and Mater Dei is definitely going to be one of them.
Yeah, looking overall at the Palooza, I mean, did it just seem like the teams that were supposed to finish on top finished on top, or was there sort of some nice, pleasant weekends from some teams?
I think you had a little bit of both. Dripping Springs played Grand Oaks in the first match of the day in the gold bracket quarterfinals, and Grand Oaks went out and they played a perfect match. In fact, Ryan was there watching it, and he said, "I don't think there's a team that's ever played any better." I mean, they just took Dripping Springs out to the shed and beat them up pretty well. But even Morgan Rogers, after the head coach of Grand Oaks, said, "We played the perfect match." She said, our passing was phenomenal. We were pinpoint on everything. And she did a good job with the block. That's the one thing you got to watch with Grand Oaks. They've got a tremendous block. Teams get 3, 4 team blocks. They're up, in the 10, 12 area because they're so good. So Dripping Springs, but, then you get Dripping Springs. That's their only loss. They win the next 2 matches and they finish in 5th place. They win the consolation. So Dripping Springs was where they needed to be. Grand Oaks ended up beating Cathedral Catholic out of California, who was ranked number 4 coming in. So, they ended up 3rd. Cathedral Catholic ends up 4, so that's a good win for a Texas team there. I think if there's surprise, Saxe making the gold bracket, they went 2-0 on day 2, which was Friday, and they end up in the gold bracket. Unfortunately, they got Mater Dei to start this or the quarterfinals. So that was kind of, okay, that's great, but they ended up going 5-3. That was a little bit surprised because, as because you were there with me at the Northwest tournament, the week before, Saxe had their issues. They went 0-3 on day 2. So, they kind of stepped it up a little bit. The Woodlands out of Houston finished 10th. They were a state semifinalist last year in 6A. Terry Wade, the head coach there, is kind of working through some chemistry issues on the court. They're going to be really good when all is said and done. Looking down the list, Colleyville Heritage, of course, number 1 in your poll. And of course, defending state champs in 5A. Josh McKinney has that team playing at a high level already. They finished 15th, but they go 5-3 in what's a great tournament. Prosper kind of surprised me a little bit. They ended up finishing, 18th, and they lost early to Bridgeland. But you look at Bridgeland, they ended up in the gold bracket. So you say that's a quality win. They lost to Colleyville Heritage. That's a quality win. So, you could say that the finish was disappointing, but at the same time, they lost to quality opponents. In South Lake Carroll, Highland Park South Lake was 22nd. They were 4-5. Highland Park was 3-5. I'm not sure what to make of Michael Dearman's Scots right now. It seems like they're kind of this is usually the time they're acing everybody. So I'm not sure what's going on in the Highland Park camp. Are they just kind of getting court chemistry? Or are they just trying to find each other? But again, as we've talked about many times before, and we did on the broadcast from Northwest ISD tournament, this is why you play these preseason. But what's amazing, and your co-host Maddie said it yesterday, kudos to all the kids and all the coaches. You're talking about volleyball teams that have played anywhere from 25 to 30 matches in 31 days.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I mean, the one that comes to mind, and we talked before this episode, Royce City, 29 matches on the record. So that's incredible to play that much in a month. And it is crazy to see that we're almost 1 month in. I mean, it goes by.
Boy, you hit that the first weekend of 3 of the tournaments, all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, everything just takes off. And next thing you know, like we are now, you're getting ready for Labor Day weekend. And what's interesting too there is Flower Mound was flying out to Orlando for a tournament. And there, you mentioned the teams yesterday. Flower Mound, in particular, Brian Siegel, Jamie Siegel's husband, said that they ended up taking a plane. They were supposed to leave yesterday. They ended up taking a plane this morning at 7:30 in the morning. And what's funny about Brian, he's not a morning guy at all. So that kind of pissed him off. That's how it goes, right?
People.
But, the weather out in Florida, obviously, and you're talking potential hurricane there. And then Ryan Mitchell texted me today looking for one of the coaches' numbers because they were making travel arrangements. And as of now, as of this taping, I'm still not sure if they're going or not, because he said, we have to consider not only just getting there, but getting out of there. He said, we're just not sure if we're going to make that trip or not, because you have to look at the safety of the parents, of the community, and the kids. So,
yeah. It was Flower Mound, Argyle, Liberty Christian, Grapevine, and now, Prestonwood. I didn't know that, but Prestonwood. So yeah, hopefully everything's okay. If they play or don't play, just hopefully everyone's safe and
right. Yeah. By the way, real quick, Prestonwood was going to Tampa. They were playing a different tournament in Tampa. The teams you mentioned, including Flower Mound, they're playing in Orlando. So,
talking with Chuck Licata with Big Daddy Media, like we mentioned, we're a month in, 3 weeks. Tournament season is over for the majority of the teams here in Texas.
Right.
Some districts have already started, 9-team districts. Most teams kind of final tune-up here with non-district this week. It's funny because we've already kind of pinpoint and talked about some of these top teams because they were all at Volleypalooza. But I mean, has there been anyone else that has impressed you that you've seen that we haven't mentioned?
Argyle is off to that quick start, and I guess that's become a tradition at Argyle. But Caitlin Johnson's only in her second year. I got a chance to interview her last year, and it's on Big Daddy Media YouTube page, and I was just really impressed with how together she seemed to have it for taking over in her first year as a head coach. And this year, they've had some huge wins. Of course, they're in your rankings as well on the 5A on the 5A side. But I'm just so impressed with how good they are now. It's kind of like I was talking about with Highland Park and Michael Dearman. They're usually that good. Argyle is definitely that good. Walnut Grove, I need to see them. We talked the first time you had me on, I talked about doing less broadcasts so I can go out and see teams. I need to go see Walnut Grove. They went 3-0 in day one of Volleypalooza. And they ended up 4-4 in the tournament, but still, they finished 29th, and you say, well, 29th out of 68 teams. Okay. So they finished well above, the midpoint line. I would love to see Walnut Grove and see what they do. I think Flower Mound, kind of reversing for a minute, I think Flower Mound had the tough day at Northwest, and they're kind of picking up the pieces. I think Jamie Siegel has a tremendous team, and I still think they're going to end up, either at the top or, no worse than number two in district because she's got a lot of talent on the floor. So, and I think this tournament is going to say a lot, assuming that they get the tournament off and end up playing everything that they need to play. So, Royce City, you mentioned that. I think everybody's kind of like, wow, where did they come from? You know, um, but I want to see them. And you play the schedule that's in front of you. But you had talked about, okay, let's see them play a really good, a really good tough schedule. I think that I want to see them after, 3 weeks in district or something like that, because I want to see if that is real. But right now, 27-2 is just, blow you away. And I think Rockwall is doing well. They're kind of middle of the road right now. They ended up 4-4, but they ended up 15th at Volleypalooza. That's certainly nothing to sneeze about. So the Yellow Jackets, I think, are really good, and they're going to be in the rankings, towards the top of the rankings when all is said and done.
Yeah, Rockwall, I have them number 7 in my 6A rankings. You can check them out at GM Sports Media. Shout out to Gabby Ashcraft, the senior setter. She just a couple weeks ago hit 2,000 career assists, and she's among the leaders
Nice.
in the country in assists per set. You did mention the Yellow Jackets. Yeah, they had some quality wins with South Lake and Allen Prosper.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Royce City, they're in the same district, Royce City and Rockwall 10 6A. So if there's probably one game to go check out, see if Royce City is, the real deal.
Right.
That would be the game to watch. Yeah, Royce City 27-2. Last year they only won 23 games.
Wow.
They already have 27 in, just shy of a month is just incredible for the Bulldogs.
Well, I know that you're doing this venture, so I know you're not the head coach, so it can't be you that's guided them to that win.
Yeah, just 6A rankings up. I have Byron Nelson, who's 18-1 at the top of the charts, playing away.
Yeah.
Number three. I mean, McKinney Boyd has always had a good volleyball program.
They beat Preston Wood in the Battle for the Rock a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the only
So,
Texas team to beat Preston Wood so far this year.
yep.
Yeah, it kind of put them in sort of a surprise, state. I don't know. We talk about tiers, and the Byrons and Preston Woods may be tier 1, and McKinney Boyd might be 2 or 3. So, I mean,
Right.
Boyd seems to be a surprise team, and that's a tough district. I mean,
Yeah, that is a nasty district. Yeah, for sure.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
just who knows who's going to win that district? But
Another surprise team per se is Allen. I talked to you about them, the first time we talked, and I think Stephanie Poole, they ended up winning their tournament. They beat both Plano East and Plano West on the same day on Championship Saturday to win that tournament. Then they had to play in Plano East on day 3 at Volleypalooza, and they beat them again. It took 3. You're playing best of 3, and they took 3, but they still, they played them tight. And then they played Cy Ranch, who once Cy Ranch gets that chemistry down, they're going to be nasty. But they took Cy Ranch in the third set. They took them to 30-28. And as you know, in tournament play, you don't play past 30. So, that was a great win. So I think Allen, I think they've made enough noise that they're not, wow, where'd they come from? But, they've got that consistency now that Stephanie's looking for, and you're going to be hearing about them moving forward. And real quick on South Lake, Leslie Jackson coaching that team. I think that's a team that comes around, they're just getting better with play. Now, obviously, they kind of stubbed their toes. We talked about before, 4-5 at Volleypalooza, but still ended up 22nd. So.
Yeah, and also want to mention Plano East, who's also pretty good start coming in. Actually, they were at Volleypalooza, and then they came in third, I believe, at the Allen tournament. So
yep, they did. Yeah, they finished 29th. They were 4-5 at Palooza.
Yeah, talk about another tough district with the Flower Mounds and.
Oh yeah, that's going to be highlighted by the time those 3 teams play each other. That's just going to be amazing. Plano High School isn't doing too well, doing too bad this year either. I think they finished 43rd, but they went 5-3. They just lost at the wrong time at Volleypalooza. So, and one more team real quick, I guess, in the surprise or doing well, Hebron. They ended up 4-4. And I know Karen Keeney has had a program won 3 straight state championships in 6A back a few years ago, is rebuilding that. And I think that and we talked about before, I think they grab one of the playoff spots out of their district.
Just a couple other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Keller Central is 20-5. They're state ranked in 6A in the TGCA. Timber Creek in the same district, also state ranked. You also have Little Elm. Kelly Covert is doing a fantastic job. Only won 9 games last year. I believe they are up to 14.
Wow.
Pasco, Tim Ryman, I think they're up to 19 wins. They had 17 last year. And then a couple other ones in my rankings. You have like Frisco Centennial. That's a tough district. They're already
right.
5. Had some nice wins. They actually one of 2 teams that beat Royce City, Frisco Centennial, that is, also beat Salina, which was a regional finalist. Bishop Lynch, TAPS 6A state runner-up. So, yeah, just to make that district even more tougher, you add a team like Centennial in the mix, which also I believe Walnut Grove is in that district in 10-5A with the likes of Frisco Liberty and Frisco Memorial. So yeah, I mean, just moving forward now, as we hit September and we hit the district season, and I'll give you a chance to kind of stretch it out past DFW. But yeah, I mean, what can we kind of expect in the next 2 months as we kind of gear up for district and then the playoffs?
Have we mentioned Blum yet? Have we done our daily due diligence on Blum? They're phenomenal. They're 19-3, and of course, they continue to do well. Lauren McPherson, and I guess they had a couple players named to the AVCA Phenom list or whatever it was. But 1A and 2A are shaping up really interesting. Natchez is 15-4 now. Natchez won 3 in a row back in the late 2010 era or decade, and their quality program, they're number 2 in the TGCA. They're 15-4, and Benjamin, which ended up in the semifinals last year at state, they're 17-4, and they returned everybody from that state-bound team last year. So Round Top Carmine, which was a legendary program back in the 90s and has really kind of gotten some footing. They're in the top 10. I think the most interesting one that nobody knows about is Jewett-Leon and Iola. These are 2 Central Texas teams. They are 55-1 combined. Jewett-Leon is 28-0. They're a 2A school. They played 4 2A teams. They played 3A, 4A, and 5A makes the rest of their schedule. Okay. They're 28-0. They've won 60 out of 62 sets. That's amazing. And then, oh, by the way, their district opponent, Iola, is 27-1, and they played a lot of teams ranked 3A and 4A as well. So that's going to be really interesting. Then you've got Windthorst, which last year won state and became the all-time program to win the most state championships as a team. They're 23-2, and really good for Jeff Coker and Crawford. Crawford won 15, 17, 19. Didn't do anything until Jeff took over that program. They're now 19-6. They're number 3 in TGCA. So they are a really good program. Gunter has slipped up a little bit. They're 16-7. They were off to a good start. Tori Mitchell taking over that program from Caitlin Gill, who's now working for Ryan at Skyline. But, they lost a lot of their key parts, but Tori has them playing really well. And then of course, 4A Mineral Wells. Wow. They're north of us here in Granbury, but it's kind of like, wow, look at them go. They're doing really well. And then, of course, 5A and 6A, I think we've talked ad nauseum, if you will. So I think we've covered them a lot. But but what's shaping up, you got a lot of really good teams that are just outstanding. Again, that 2A, Iola and Leon, 55-1 combined. That's blow away amazing. That's Brian Gossett amazing. How's that?
Yeah, just to hit on a point with Blum, who's 19-3, number one in the state rankings for 1A. Um, a team that they don't play a team in their same class until that first district game. I have it here. Some key wins. I mean, Lorena, who's 4A, Godley 4A, Salina, Wimberley 4A, Midlothian Heritage 5A, Stephenville, which started pretty hot, is 4A.
Mm-hmm.
Only three losses. One is to Floresville, which is 22-2. Liberty Hill is 25-6, and Denton
And 5A.
Denton High is 19-5. Which shout out to Denton. They're part of those surprise teams at 19-5. Good for them. But yeah, those three losses. I mean, to those records as a 1A group, that's pretty remarkable.
Let me tell you a funny. This is one of our classic state stories at the state volleyball tournament. Real quick, what I think that we do and what you are doing with yours is you're bringing more exposure, much deserved exposure to a lot of programs, which is great. Hats off to you, if you will. But at state in 2019, Crawford was, and still is, Crawford won the 2A state championship. So you have, like Butch Hart, myself, those that know the program, know, a little bit about volleyball. And then you have the reporters that show up that day to cover them. Okay. And I mean, you can't fault them, but they don't know anything about volleyball. So at the conference after Crawford wins the state championship, you hear this reporter say, "So, Coach, I noticed in the middle of your schedule that you had 4 losses in a row." And they finished like 43-5 on the year. Okay. He said, "What did you tell your girls at that point to help them recover from a 4-game losing streak?" What's funny and ironic about that is in those 4 losses, they played 1 5A team and 3 6A teams. Okay. There were 2A teams. Their 4 losses was to 1 5A and 3 6A programs. Okay. And Butch and I just kind of like, okay, here's somebody else that doesn't look at the schedule to see who the quality opponents that they're playing. So we just kind of refer to that. We use the reporter's name. I won't say it here because I don't want to embarrass them, but it's kind of like, okay, know your volleyball before you ask a question like that. And to his credit, Jeff Coker kind of said, well, we started playing teams that were more towards our classification in 2A instead of the upper tier, and we were able to rebound and get things going again. So, but look at who you're playing, okay? Look at who they play when they lose 4 in a row. So,
yeah, and I just want to mention one more team, just kind of to piggyback on that. And they've done this, last year and previous years. They're kind of like the Blum, where they don't play their same class until district starts. But that's Decatur, who I had. They were regional semifinalists last year in 4A Region 1, lost to eventual state champ Canyon Randall. But I had them number 1 in the preseason. Of course, I do something different because we just don't have as many DFW teams in the smaller classes. But I joined 4A, 2A, 1A. So I had Decatur number 1. Now I have them number 3. Even though they're 6-15 on the season, I have them number 3. Key wins: Salina, Geyer. Not many key wins, but key losses. Dripping Springs, right? 6A
state champs. Yep.
San Antonio Heartland, which has an amazing record, and
they ended up in the top 10 at Volleypalooza this past week.
Oswell, regional semifinals in 6A. Spring Grand Oaks, who's only has 1 loss now on the season. Saxe 6A, Prosper, just
right.
So, I think even at 6-15, I think Decatur's going to be all right.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and they play in a tough district. I mean, that's always been a tough district, especially when Argyle was 4A back then. You had them and Crum and Decatur. I mean, that's a tough district. That's just like you were talking about the 6A districts, yesterday. And by the way, Harlan finished ninth. They were 7-2 at Volleypalooza. And Saxe finished seventh. They were 5-3 and made the gold bracket at Volleypalooza. So yeah, you have to. And again, I think what you do and what we do really helps people understand, look, they may have a 6-15 record, but look at the quality opponents. I mean, that you talk about strength of schedule, they're probably number one in the state with that kind of schedule.
Yeah, for sure.
Although I'm sure Lauren McPherson would be a little bit upset at me by saying that, but Lauren, you're in the top three somewhere, okay?
Yeah, I'll let you get on this. Just give you the floor here. Just what's coming up for you, and what do you want to shout out to, and perhaps some games you're looking forward to going to watching.
Well, like I said, I definitely want to get at the see Walnut Grove for sure. When they get the district, I definitely want to see Flower Mound and one of the Plano teams, West or East. Maybe go watch Plano East and West play each other. I definitely want to see Prosper again. They're really good. South Lake Carroll will be wonderful to see. Northwest with Jennifer Chandler and the great job she's doing. Over there in Class 5A, and then of course Bree over at Byron Nelson at Class 6A. I mean, there's just so much you can see. I know everybody's big on the Friday night lights and the football, but a lot of teams schedule their varsity volleyball so you can go there and then pop over to the football stadium and watch football. So if you're following in school, if you're a student, if you're a parent, you're part of the community, do that. Go support volleyball and then pop over, because there's obviously plenty of seating most of the time in football. So that's never a problem. Big Daddy Media, what we're doing, like I said, we're just writing. I'm doing some writing for Texas Volleyball Insiders. So I'm sharing a lot of stuff there. I'm sharing a lot on social media on Big Daddy Media. We'll get more involved in that as we hit district. I want to do a couple of interviews, kind of like the Roy Firestone type style. For those of you old enough to remember who that is, and by the way, I want to commend you. I knew him when he wrote down in Austin. I see that TJ Williams started contributing, so I hope you'll see a little bit more from TJ. Good guy, good quality guy, and I think he knows a little bit about volleyball too. So
yeah, you're an awesome guy.
yeah.
So yeah, Big Daddy Media. You can follow on Twitter at Big D Media 19.
Same address for Instagram as well. And of course, we're on Facebook. We're really starting to pump up the Facebook and Instagram as well. I asked Ryan Mitchell, I said, so who do you follow now? And he mentioned yours. He mentioned mine. He said, and I asked him, I said, social media. He said, Twitter has a lot. He said, but, as far as the girls and stuff, he said, it's definitely Instagram. And he said his son actually gets them on Snapchat as well. He gets a lot of messages on Snapchat. So apparently Snapchat's, bigger with that generation as well. So that was interesting to find out what the coaches follow and use as well. And those that have kids, what they end up using too.
I forget TikTok. But yeah, just make sure you go and follow Chuck on Twitter, Big Daddy Media.
And you and I exchange a lot too. We like and repost our stuff. So if you follow one of us, you might as well follow both of us because we're interacting a lot, which I appreciate. That's great to have that relationship for sure. But like I said, I'd really like to get Maddie to interview me sometime. Just no offense, but you understand.
I don't blame you with my ugly mug, but
not that I'm pretty. I got the face for radio, so it's an understanding. We understand that. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, buddy. Look forward to seeing you again and watching some good games.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining me. That's Chuck Licata with Big Daddy Media, Texas State Volleyball Insider. Good to have you, my friend.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Brian
Okay.
Gossett here with Game Time with the Goss. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out, GM Sports Media, on our website as well as our YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time.